this won't take me long. It's a rating video for Dirge Cerberus. Let's get this over with. Let's make sure I've got the right one up. Yes, okay. Alright. 2 sessions, missions, no cheats. It's not a great score. -3 to story, and I think it was -11 to gameplay. Yeah. I don't got a lot to say. Hey, so let's just get through this. Start with the positives on the story, as ever. Brickwork. Single positive, which is kind of disappointing considering this is FF7, but there you go. The external continuity is as good as it is bad. And there are a lot of really cool ideas that go absolutely nowhere here, but are interesting all the same. The WRO, Sid being an airship captain, these are all very intriguing ideas that I wish they would do something with, that they would have done something with, but no, this was effectively where they chopped it off because Crisis Core did not ignite any interest either behind the scenes or in terms of the in terms of the fan base to warrant interest. Although, if it hadn't taken them like 13 goddamn years to release an honest-to-God fucking remake, well, which technically they still haven't, even 17 years later, but let's not get into that. But if it took, but if the idea of making FF7 didn't take nearly a fucking decade later, this could have been an interesting thing they could have expanded upon, right? But no, this is what we're left with. I do think the gameplay story integration is fine for what it is, even if I honestly think it is a bit wonky at times. So, there's that. There is some decent visual storytelling, even if it's a rarity in this game. The voice acting, you're going to hear me say as good as it is bad quite a bit in this game, with this story, so buckle in. So buckle in. And because the voice acting is another point that is as good as it is bad. When it's on point, it's definitely on point. Though, admittedly, the strength of that, most of that is on the strength of the cast, rather than that is supposed to say the direction being good. Good in any real capacity. When it's bad, though, good lord, is it bad and stilted. God. Like, seriously, some of the dialogue in this game is just... Ugh, we'll get there. We'll get there. There's some good music direction. There's some good camera work and good music direction. The camera work in particular adding a lot of nice cool factor. And that's it. 7 presentation positives. That's pathetic. Coming from me, that is straight pathetic. Let's be real. Now we get into the characters, and oh, you want to talk pathetic. Only 4 characters got positives in this game. That's pretty bad. Admittedly, one of them got a triple, but God, when that's not even the main playable character, that's pretty bad. Though, speaking of, Vincent is honestly interesting. And is honestly interesting, as he is a good man, and that is understated as I feel it should be. There's a lot of things you do in this game that show that Vincent is a good person. Deep down. It's just you gotta actually be paying attention to see him be that kind-hearted person, right? Then there's Yuffie, who does continue to be who continues to be awesome. I mean, I guess she was awesome in Advent Children. You know what? Yeah, I'm willing to say that. She was one of the few positives of Advent Children. But, yeah, I do feel like she's underutilized in this one. That's why she was only one positive. Speaking of underutilized, is Reeve. Now, granted, he shows why he was against Shinra the entire time, even if that really should have been shown off more or often than it was in the OG FF7. But here, at least, he gets a chance to shine and show who Reeve actually is. I just wish he could leave the stupid fucking ear poison using in the fucking trash bin where it fucking belongs, but we'll get there. And then Hojo, despite his lack of presence, is as delightfully evil as ever, and is the most consistently written villain in the compilation, which earns him a triple positive. Yes, he does that good of a job of making this crap story tolerable. I mean, the story is oof, but I didn't mean to write it as oof in my notes here. So yeah. Now we get into some moments. Like I said, that's it. 4 characters getting positives, which equals 6 positives. That is, once again, one of the most pathetic things ever. And again, that's coming from me. You might expect that more from the lore runner, who's a little more harsh on characterization, and by a little, I mean good fucking lore, what the hell? Hell, but no, from me, Mr. I love characters, the fact that I've only given 4 characters in this thing positives, and even nuked 2 character positives off the goddamn board, should say everything it needs to. But getting into the moments now. The assault on Midgar. Yeah, that's how much of a nothing burger this story is how bad this story is. I want to remind you, the assault on Midgar is near the end of the game. Midgar might as well be the equivalent of the final dungeon, right? I mean, it's not the actual final dungeon, but it is effectively the lead-in to the final dungeon. So, yeah. But despite all of that, despite the assault on Midgar not amounting to much like this story, I do feel the scene is very well done and awesome. It just has some awesome moments on display, which helps show off Deep Ground's threat level more than anything else. So it was a triple positive. It leads to some bullshit in the negatives, but we'll get there. I also love the pep talk phone call. This is when the old FF7 party call up Vincent and give him the pep talk. I like that. I might be overselling it more than a little, but it honestly shows the bond Vincent has with the rest of the team nicely. So I think it's worthy of 2 positives. As I love that it reestablishes Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett's characters quickly and very efficiently. Like, look at it, because, Tifa's like, hey, I got through, cool. Vincent, you okay? Hey, you doing good? Good. And Barrett's just like, yo, is that Vincent? Tell him to give him hell for us, yeah! And Cloud's just like, hey, sup, Vincent, you got this. Go do it. Really like that. Really good stuff. I also have to admit that all of Yuffie's scenes put together don't do as well of a job establishing her as that one scene did for establishing the others. Kind of funny in its own way. Then there's Azul's End, which fits a lot more with his character. Which and fits a lot more with his character and to show the power Chaos has. So that's cool. And then there's the Hojo twist, which I feel works on every level. He was hinted at through the flashbacks. He is twisted enough to pull a stunt like this. And best of all, in both the OG and the game's opening cuts, has him in front of a terminal at his end. So like when we examine him, when we confront him at the Mako cannon in the original FF7, he's typing away at a terminal, right? That's what it looks goofy in the OG sprite work. But he is typing away at a terminal when we confront him, just before he turns around and says, "And now I'm going to attack you with Genova cells." Right? I also feel this twist it was not only hinted at by the flashbacks, but foreshadowed through them. And Ryu saying he likely knew, not only through the flashbacks, but also through Ryu saying in kind of a throwaway line that the three people that likely knew of Deep Ground's existence were Heidegger, Scarlet, and Hojo, other than the former president himself. With everything that happened, it's very possible Rufus was never briefed on the project. So there you go. 23 positives only. That's pathetic coming from me. Let's just be real. Admittedly, Crisis Core kind of suffers a bit too, but yeah, that is truly pathetic. And we still ended with a net -3, despite with 8, which doesn't help, you know. I simultaneously gave the brickwork a positive and a negative. I forgot about this. Yes, when it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it's frustrating. As I had stated above, of the external continuity is both good and bad. However, external continuity did get a second negative, and this is where I mentioned the assault on Midgar causing problems. This is what I was referring to with the Midgar causing problems thing. Because one has to ask, how the fuck is Rosso alive after fighting Cloud? As in post-Advent children, Cloud? I'm sorry, but no, I mentioned this on stream, and it warrants repeating here. Rosso should be at least injured from Cloud. Why? Because Cloud was experimented upon by Hojo, which was his body constantly absorbing Mako. Then there's the fact that he got severe Mako poisoning and fell into the goddamn life stream. I'm sorry, but no. Now, by that logic, you could argue, well, shouldn't Tifa be slightly Jew-powered? Honestly, yes. I think Tifa should have been kind of gotten a bit of a boost. Maybe not to the same extent as Cloud, because she hasn't been exposed to Mako for as long. You know, depending on how long the Cloud subconscious section lasts in lore. But yeah, no, I think she should actually get a bit of a power boost too. Because that's the thing. Mako being injected into Soldier is supposed to be why they're stupidly strong. Doy. And no, don't give me that Geostigma is gone, so therefore, or Cloud's strength should be gone. No. Because that Geostigma was Genova. It always was. Vincent even flat out said Geostigma was Genova in Advent Children. Ugh. Sorry, yeah, this is a sticking point for me, but we'll bitch more about it a bit later, because we're still in the presentation negatives. Babylon 5 effect is misused. The stuff has changed about your knowledge of the setting for the worse. Sadly, there is some cutscene incompetence going on here. Though it's mostly in the first mission where I can't save the little girl, little Rio, before the dog locks her up, which would have been a nice touch. You know. No, the dog's just invincible until the little girl gets locked up, because screw you. Fuck off. Voice acting, as I mentioned, as good as it is bad. And the dialogue, oh boy, yeah, the dialogue is just honestly really, really bad. There is a melodramatic flavor to it, which usually doesn't bug me, but it's like, it's overly so, right? Like, almost every line is this, we have to go on this stupid long exposition about how sad a character is, and it's like, shut the fuck up. We get it. Piss off. Which is not helped by the bad voice direction, the pacing, which ended up being a double negative, and the story sequencing being a double negative. Because, good lord, the story sequencing is so goddamn bad, and the pacing of this thing is just all over the place. In many cases, it feels like, oh hey, we got it. Okay, we're dealing with this, and then suddenly we're shifting over here, and then suddenly we're shifting over there, and then suddenly we're shifting over here, and it's like, fuck off. Focus. Focus, goddamn you. So yeah, 12 negatives to the presentation. Pretty bad. Net negative 5 on presentation alone. Yeah, not great. Now let's get into the characters. Oh, Lord. Okay, so yeah, this giant paragraph you are seeing on your screen, on the off chance you're not able to read it, is for Lucrezia. Oh, God. Here we go. So, Lucrezia in the OG timeline is completely ruined by this game, to the point where ignoring this game and not counting it as canon is the only way she isn't a stupid, egotistical, dumb bitch who couldn't keep her panties on. And yes, I am going to phrase it that way. Hey, because, oh God, what the fuck? Look, she's got a scientist fetish. That's the only thing I can possibly think of to explain the fact that she basically was like madly in love with Vincent's dad. Yes, fucking seriously. And then goes and fucks Hojo to give birth to Sephiroth. Ugh. It's like, really? Ugh. Oh, and then there's the fact that she hides the fact that she worked with him from Vincent, which is just why. Which, as I put in brackets here, she would only hide if she was trying to hide the sexual attraction, which just, bitch, just fucking own up, okay? You fucked up. Own up to it, you know? Then there's all the manipulation she puts Vincent through, which is just, oh, go to hell. Hell. And as I mentioned earlier, oh yes, fucking Hojo. Hojo, as in the most evil asshole in the setting, who also treated her like shit before that, too. She literally willingly went and had a kid with an abusive asshole, which she knew was an abusive asshole. She chose Hojo over Vincent. Burn in hell, Lucrezia. Just burn in hell. You know, simple fix. As horrible as this sounds, the simple fix would have been Hojo forcing himself on Lucrezia. Which, by the way, actually would have would have made it better, because then Lucrezia would have been a victim and not effectively the cause of all the planet's suffering. Well, most of the planet's suffering, because Genova was still a festering disease, and she had nothing to do with that, but that's beside the point. Then there's Deep Ground in general, which they're just boring as antagonists. You noticed I didn't give Azul or any of the Soviets positives, by the way. That's because the whole organization is just fucking boring. Actually, what's funny is I actually gave negatives to the Soviets, but we'll get there. Well, I guess we are technically on there now, because Shulk. She is an interesting concept, and the execution of her character writing works well enough, but she is a little too one-dimensional to not be annoying. She is really dumb, and they try to pull the whole "I will speak with this robotic sounding voice because that's how I was raised." It's like, fuck off. The robot, the stock, not stock. What's the word I'm looking for? The stoic, nearly binary speech pattern was just done so much better in Trails. Altina just works wonderfully. She's still kind of irritating, but she slowly loses it over time. Shulk never does. She talks the same way at the beginning of the game as she does at the end of the game, even though she's supposed to be freed from all of that, and moving on. Then there's Azul, who's boring at best, irritating at worst, as it feels like they want him to be a rival for Vincent, but it only really works from a character design perspective, and that is just not enough, because, Azul's like the big fucking hulking behemoth, and Vincent's just this lanky little guy, so it's basically power versus speed. And let's just say, hey, that works better in another context, and leave it at that. I don't even know if that popped up, and I don't care. If it didn't, that was my Blu-ray for my Blu-ray 2-pack of the first two Sonic movies. Sonic 3 is an awesome movie. If it's still in the theaters when this video goes live, go see it. It might, because this will be going up in early January, so. Then there's Rosso, who's just as annoying, as she has no character and is supposed to be strong enough to survive Cloud. Yeah, as I mentioned over in the second external continuity negative, no, I call bull. And I'm not even a Cloud fanboy. I'm not even a Cloud fanboy. I'm not even an FF7 fanboy. I'm not a fanboy for any of these characters, and I still call bull. Why? Because I fucking pay attention to the setup. Despite all of that, though, the character negatives is added up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. And -1 on characters. You can thank Hojo for that, of all fucking characters. Then there's the intro, which I terminate with the end of Sea of Flames, which is one of the earlier missions. I think that's actually chapter 1 that I end that with. It does nothing to invest you in the story, and even in regards to Vincent, it relies heavily on you having played FF7, having recruited Vincent and Yuffie, and visited Lucrezia's cave during it. Not good. No joke. Sonic, the third Sonic 3, the third Sonic movie, Sonic 3, does a better job of establishing Shadow than this goddamn thing. And they even do the same thing that this game does and slowly reveal more as the game goes on. Which is, as the movie goes on, I mean. Then there's Shalua's death. Oh, God. So, it's not good, in my opinion, because we barely know who her or Shulk are to really get a feel for how this would affect Shulk, and Vincent's reaction is kind of off to me, because in a way it almost feels like Vincent kind of just, because Shalua somewhat looked like Lucrezia, it felt like because she looked kind of like Lucrezia, he kind of had the hots for her, which is no, Vincent is not a character who should be a goddamn should not be a sex machine. You know, Vincent is the kind of guy that people should lust after, not to lust after other people, you know? So, yeah, if you thought I was done bitching about Rosso surviving Cloud, it got its own triple negative. So, yeah. As I've said like a bajillion times already in the story negatives here in this video alone, I call bullshit. I get the idea is she's superhuman or whatever, but in my opinion, this really doesn't make any real sense. I get the idea that because of what Geostigma was in Advent Children, he is now weaker. But I'm sorry, the Mako infusions done to him in Crisis Core and the OG should at bare minimum put him on par with her. I'd even be willing to accept that it was a stalemate if we saw the whole fight, and if she showed injuries. Like, you can even just have her uniform kind of torn in specific spots, like basically a battle damage character model, which, by the way, was accomplished on the PS1. Anybody plays Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro? You can do that. It's possible. And just have, like, the character model. You don't even have to do it, like, heavy battle damage. Maybe just kind of a couple of cuts and maybe a scar on her face or something. That would have been interesting and kind of be like, ooh. And yeah, sure, people would have been clamoring to see it, but, Ugh. So yeah, that was a triple negative. Also, I find her end to be unsatisfying as fuck. Look, and it got its own negative. And then there's the outro in general, which is just annoying, and the secret ending hints at a game beyond Crisis Core, which unfortunately never happened. Essentially, the idea being that Genesis effectively came back to effectively become the next villain, kind of thing. Voiced this time by Ronak and Downs, because they hadn't solidified Genesis's character yet. Shrug. Will it happen in the remake timeline? Time will tell. I know some people don't want the remake equivalent of Dirge of Cerberus, but hey, if they make it better, I'm all for it. So there you go, 26 negatives, 2 story. Now let's talk some gameplay positives this time. Now, alright. Hey, so for a PS2 game, there are some surprisingly robust options in this one. You can even play this thing with a mouse and keyboard plugged into your PS2, for God's sakes. No, seriously, you can do that. There is literally an option in the thing to customize mouse and keyboard controls. Think about that for a second. I could actually plug this mouse. I could literally plug this mouse and the USB keyboard I have down there, and play this with a mouse and keyboard. How's that for interesting? I actually should have seen how that fared. Maybe that would have given a couple more positives. But the options being there are nice. Then there's the tutorials, which are informative, accessible at any time via the main menu, and help you get a feel for the controls. The map has its issues, don't mistake me, but it is still useful. Customizing your weapon, well, basic, is honestly good and expands as you go through the game. Then there's the 3 different gun types, Cerberus, Hydra, and Griffin, which all feel different. Even if it is just basic handgun, rifle, machine gun. In the basic handgun, rifle, and machine gun combo. Each have their uses, and none of them feel useless. This is also helped by the customization that I mentioned in Positive 4. Then there's itemization, which I feel is on point, constantly, and that's good. Might be a little too on point at times, but I won't ding a game for that. You know? The itemization's so good because it showers you with items. That's not a negative to me. Oh, this item will sit here and wait for me to... This Phoenix down will sit here and wait for me to need it. Alright, why am I dinging the game for that? What fucking idiot in their right mind would ding a game for that? Real example, by the way, because that's what this game does. Now, if it was more open and this was more of a sprawling world rather than a mission/level based progression system, oh, that would be interesting. Granted, you'd have to have a spawn limit, but that's to be expected. Let's be real. And that was probably less reasonable on the PS2. On the PS5, though, that is definitely possible. Thank you, Daybreak, for showing that off. Well, the checkpoints themselves are to be judged as we go. I think I ended up giving... I don't know if I gave a negative. It was either negative or wash, I'm pretty sure. Or I know it was that, but but regardless, I do like the idea that one can level up before retrying. It's honestly kind of a nice touch. It doesn't help in every situation, and oftentimes you will revert, unfortunately, but it is usually pretty nice. Then there's the power progression curve, which definitely feels like you are constantly getting stronger, which is good. Galleon Beast, which was just a fun limit break to use, even if it was the only limit break you could use. I would have loved to have played as, like, the... Shit, I suddenly can't think of the second one. I know Hellmasker is the third one, but I'm blanking on the second one. Okay, give me a sec. True gameplay. Yes, in the OG. Party member. Yeah, that's great. Oh, come on. And stop being stupid. Death Gigas, that was it. Okay. Like, I would have loved to have run around as the lumbering Death Gigas. Gigas and do the big electric attack. And I can just boof, 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 boof. You know? Just rapid fire. That would be awesome. Is there a delay in my camera? Sorry, give me 1 second. I think my computer's just lagging. I think that's part of the issue here. Oh, none of that's gonna help me. Okay, it probably is. Probably is just me being my computer lagging. I don't know why it's lagging, but oh, I guess that would help. Had a couple of things that were running that they shouldn't have been. And my bad. My bad. Anyways, where was I? Hey, after that interruption. Let's see. Yeah, so Galleon Beast, really fun. Gameplay, story, integration. Nation is alright, but ultimately, it is alright, but and leans net positive. Visual distinction is good, most of the time. The HUD is good, in my opinion. The intro Sea of Flames from a gameplay perspective has its issues, but it does introduce you to the game's mechanics well enough. I like the first round against Azul. Cool. The explosive barrels were actually kind of cool. Round 2 was fun and has a nice progression in power. And round 3 is damn fun and requires strategy to beat. I really did like that one. And then there's Hojo Weiss. Nice, which is easily the best boss fight up to that point, as it really shows how little the boss design has to offer, as this is very simple, but a fun and fair boss fight that feels satisfying and epic as I feel it should be, which earns it a full 3 positives. Then there's Vincent's Chaos form, which is one hell of a Hyper Beam moment for the final chapter, and Omega Weiss is actually kind of fun as a final boss. So 2 positives there, and then I went ahead and gave the outro on the gameplay a positive as well. 23 gameplay positives. Now let's move on to the gameplay negatives, shall we? 1 save slot. Yes, you can replay these stages, but for all intents and purposes, it's all the same save file. And you even revert back to the level you were during those stages, which sucks. Also, I really feel like the controls are clunky even by PS2 standards. Like, seriously, I thought there are plenty of games where you go back and it kind of feels a little, and the controls feel a little clunky to play now. But no, even back in the day, these controls felt fucking wonky, and I kind of hate that. I also do not like the fact that the map is just not translucent enough when walking around. No, you can't attack while it's up either, which is just really stupid and annoying. Then there's Viscerality, which is an epic fail in my opinion. It's not that I feel weak; it's that my attacks don't feel like they have much impact, owed largely to the lackluster sound design and the fact that trash mobs don't die quick outside of headshots and criticals. Then there's the core combat itself, which is just too limited for my taste, and feels like this should play like Devil May Cry, but they didn't know how to do that. And so what you get is just a clumsy it feels like they lean too far into shooter rather than action. Fiction, you know? And that really hurt this game. Bad. Then there's the knockback. Oh god, the fucking knockback. Triple negative, because Jesus, it's obnoxious and can easily lead to you getting stun locked. And it continued to be an issue the entire game. Hey man, just became frustrating to the point where I gave it a triple negative. Then there's the boss design, in which the issues of which rear their ugly head as early as the first boss, as it is one of several times you fight the same fight, and it gets old after a while. No joke. Outside of Azul and Hojo, well, basically outside of the Soviets and Weiss and Hojo Weiss, and well, every Weiss fight. Let's face it. It's the same boss fight over and over and over again. I was expecting to give a triple negative to the fact that you fight the same goddamn helicopter like multiple times. You only fight it like 2 or 3 times, which is still 2 times too many in my opinion. Right? It just felt like a lot of times they were just copying and pasting boss design, and that's not good. Which is also not helped by the fact that the enemy variety in general is just so bad that it ended up warranting a triple negative. Like, seriously, the only enemies you really encounter are bestial enemies, which are the dogs and the shoguns. Deep ground soldiers of like 2 or 3 varieties. And helicopters and the bosses basically, and that's it. That's bad. Even Crisis Core does better with its enemy variety, as we'll get to. And it's also equally not helped by the fact that the encounters have no forethought put into them, so that was a triple negative. And then I went ahead and gave a negative to the bad gameplay pacing, the bad visual distinction at times. I did give a positive and a negative to that, and the bad dungeon design. And by the end, Trash has just had way too much HP. Good lord. Yes, in the final chapter, the Trash was falling in one hit, but that was because of the overpowered might of death penalty. Yes, I was doing quad 9 to like every frickin' enemy in the final dungeon, but that's because Chaos is a hyper beam moment. Because they knew they needed it to, if they were going to have it be epic, they needed to do it right. So there you go. Then the audio spam just slowly seeped into being a negative. Just the one. Yes, I did give a negative to checkpoints because they're just too sparse in my opinion. That's right. Then there's the sniper/escort section of Edge, which is honestly more annoying than fun. This is the shoot the snipers on the roofs and then escort that kid, which in a way is kind of padding when you think about it. I really didn't like the Shulk boss fight as she zips around in a cramped area, which just makes it really hard to hit her, and that's irritating. Yes, Rosso does the same damn thing, but she does it in a more open area. Then there's the forced stealth section with Kate Sith. Do I really need to say more? Practically binary difficulty. I mean, you don't lose the second you're spotted, but you might as well, because as Kate Sith takes like 2 bullets and he dies. It's like, at that point, you might as well just fucking fail me right then and there when I get spotted. Thankfully, though, you can escape them and get it over with, but it's still just, that section can go to hell. Oh, I guess I did find Rosso even worse. Or so, yeah, never mind. Rosso was even fucking worse. Mostly because it was a big wide open area, and she was also basically teleporting to me constantly, which didn't help. Oh, so yeah, triple negative there. And then there's the Dragonfly PT in the reactor, which is the worst boss fight in the game, hands down for me. It's a copter, which is a fucking coward, has way too much HP, is hard to hit, and constantly harasses you with its ads. Yeah, that was a triple negative, 34 negatives, for a grand total of negative 11. And the more I think about it, yeah, no, I agree with the Rosso triple negative, because Jesus Christ, that fight. She is, yes, it's a little bit better. Her zipping around is better, but her frickin' constant bull crap is just her speed's too high. Is the point? So, yeah, that's Dirge of Cerberus. I don't like this game. It's not the worst game I've ever played. Wow, that actually took me longer than I was expecting. Mostly because of the shenanigans in the middle, but regardless, yeah, no, this is not a fun game. Not that fun of a game. Not that bad of one, but definitely not that great either. It's not the worst Final Fantasy. In fact, I would argue it's not even close to the worst Final Fantasy. In fact, if you give me a moment, I can even tell you where exactly it lies. As I lag out my computer some more. Alright, let's see. From the bottom, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is the 8th lowest Final Fantasy I have ever played. And I know some people are going to shoot me, but the ones below it are Final Fantasy 13-2, Final Fantasy 10, and Final Fantasy 3. Final Fantasy 4 The After Years, Final Fantasy 13-1, Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13, and Final Fantasy Type 0. All of those are worse games than this. And yes, I do count Final Fantasy X among them because I don't enjoy the gameplay of Final Fantasy X. I don't see what everybody sees in that gameplay. I'm sorry. I have started to turn around. I have turned around on its story, mostly, and I can see the merit in it. But there's just too many things that kind of piss me off about the gameplay. Hey, I'm sorry. Final Fantasy X feels like jank ink to me, and bad jank. My opinion. Which is still funny to me that at Stranger of Paradise, Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy VIII, and even the original Final Fantasy, and Final Fantasy XVI all scored higher than this. That's impressive when you think about it. Regardless, that's it for me. I will stop rambling because I've got another rating video to record yet. I've still got to do the Crisis Core one. So until next time, this is Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one. See you in the next one.